Hi, so yesterday on stream, I got the second place world record for a country streak on a map created by Topotic called Southern European Hell. As you might guess from the name, it covers pretty much the northern and western Mediterranean. It covers Spain, Portugal, southern parts of France, Italy, coastal Croatia and Slovenia, as well as Greece. The reason it's called like that is because those countries can be notoriously tough to tell apart. Yeah, so I thought it might be useful to go over that footage and kind of point out what made me guess these different countries, since I know that that's a region a lot of people tend to struggle with. So yeah, I'm gonna pause and point out some things. Although I did move some through some of these pretty quickly. I also had help from chat. So okay, so this is the first round, and what you might see here is what I've definitely pointed out before. It's the double blue stripes that's unique to Italy within Europe. It also appears in Albania, but first of all, Albania isn't on this map. Second of all, there are ways to tell apart Albania from Italy rather easily, thanks to the kind of rifts in the sky. It's a little bit tough to explain without seeing it, but I'm sure you've encountered it before if you've been to Albania on Street View or in Geoguessr. It's like those lines in the sky. Yeah. Otherwise, it's pretty much a safe giveaway for Italy, unless it's a tourist. But there's several cars here. Yeah, there are some architectural clues towards Italy here as well, but those are a little bit tough to explain. It's kind of have to get your experience. Yeah, I went central Italy here. It was actually north. It's a little bit tough to guess that in a suburb like this. Okay, we got the next round here. We got Spanish, Lago Azul, as well as a Spanish road sign. Not much to really discuss here. The soil here is very red. It's something that kind of threw me off here. Um, I'm not I'm not really aware of any areas with red soil in Portugal, which is another hint. Okay, here. This is another very much safe round. Yeah, as I assume here, we got a yellow road sign, which are typical for the former Yugoslavia. As for why I went with Croatia with Slovenia here, how can I show let's play? It's more or less the vibe of this place. Coastal Slovenia is generally more urban, more kind of urbanized. Sorry, I'm repeating myself. It's more urbanized and more lush, as well as kind of hilly. On the other hand, a lot of coastal Croatia is pretty desolate. There's these little stone walls that I'm pretty sure we're gonna see again. It's generally very stony. It's covered in kind of this low brush most of the time. Um, Again, it's a little bit of a vibe you kind of learn to pick up. But okay, here the immediate clue here is an Orthodox church. Now I might actually do a video on how to tell apart different denominations of churches. Since it is actually pretty useful in Europe. Um, First thing you'll notice here is the round rotunda towards the back. I don't actually know what it's called in English, but yeah, that's kind of an identifying thing of churches in Greece. It's not just in Greece, and it's not just Orthodox churches, but you see it very commonly in like Bulgaria and Greece. Other things that point me to Greece, you see these stony hills with like a low brush. That's also very typically Greek. It's also a little bit autumny with like colorful trees and very mountainous. Whereas with this kind of stony mountains, the other place that it could be is Croatia, and Croatia, at least coastal Croatia, tends to first of all have different style of houses that are more like built of this whitish stone, whereas Greek houses tend to be either darker stone or whitewashed. And Second of all, it would be a little less lush. Like Croatian mountains are completely deforested most of the time. So yeah, that's the Peloponnese Peninsula. Next up, we are in yeah, this is Portugal. I don't really recall what this round was, but the reason why it's Portugal. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. No, no. I was kind of thrown off. This because this is actually the Azores Islands. Um, I'm assuming Topotic included like all the overseas territories of the Mediterranean, of like Spain and Portugal, even though they are not actually in the Mediterranean. The reason why I went for the Azores here is, first of all, I've been there relatively recently, so I kind of remember the entire vibe. But a good clue here is, when you already know it's Portugal, is this volcanic black stone. Mainland Portugal isn't really volcanic. You won't see red soil, you won't see like black stone buildings, whereas Azores are pretty recent volcanic islands. So you'll see these pitch black buildings, volcanic stone walls everywhere. It's really very common. Also, it's very lush. I don't know if I ever point the camera upwards, but it's Gen 2. You can see that from like this little bit blurry halo above me, and let me put this back a little bit. Okay. I wanna. Yeah, you can see there. You have these dark stone outlines on whitewashed buildings. That's typical Portuguese architecture. You will see that all over Portugal. But in the Azores specifically, it's like a very dark stone. It's the volcanic stuff. And if I pan over the house to the left of me, I don't, but sorry. Yeah. You can see you got like colorful corners and this bottom stripe. That's also a Portuguese thing. Like it's also a thing in like in the region of Spain, but it's very typical for Portugal. Anyway, I guess on the north coast of São Miguel, because it looks too mountainous for the other islands of this coverage. Okay, so that was streak number 5. Let's move on. Okay, so here, this was kind of a weird round. We have a city in a very mountainous coast, on the south coast actually. What made me go here with, I'm gonna pause this for a second. Here I went with Spain, close to Almeria. What made me go with Spain here wasn't really any particular feature, but as you can see here, I'm pointing at these greenhouses, or whatever you call them. Although they are a thing in a lot of countries, southern Spain, or like southern coast of Spain, around Almeria, Malaga, that kind of region has a ton of these. Like they're basically covering the landscape wherever it's flat enough. So there was one thing. Other thing, like a big city like this on a very mountainous coast. I couldn't really think of a place in like Greece or Italy that would fit. Also, the mountains are very deforested and kind of reddish. It's also not really. That's also not really typical for any other region. Yeah, I was talking about the greenhouses here, kind of putting it out. Also, we had the motorway and a big city like that. Yeah, pretty much the only other place that it could possibly be was like the Peloponnese Peninsula. Sorry, I'll pass it here. But yeah, it didn't really feel alright. So yeah, here we are moving on. We have another mountainous region. This is actually Portugal. If I pause here, you can see faintly, might be a little bit too compressed in the video. You can see faintly on this church tower here. that it has that dark stone outline and it's otherwise whitewashed. So that's one clue for Portugal. Also, it's like dry-ish, which is a clue for like more inland Portugal or Spain, but like most of the Mediterranean is dry-ish. That's not really that useful. Also, can't really see it here, but you have that famous yellow stripe on Portuguese plates. That's useful to look for here, but it wasn't there. And also another clue here. Let me put it back a little bit here. I'm not gonna spend so much time on every one of these. I just want to point out like things to look out for at the start. Okay. When I pan over to the right, which I should do, yeah. You have these whitewashed buildings with red roofs. Like pretty much the entire village. When you see a village, the entire village looks the same, like the same whitewashed building style with low red roofs. That's pretty much a Portuguese thing. It's also southern Spain, but but southern Spain is a little bit more dry. It's also it is parts that are almost desert-like, as you'll see later. So whenever you see kind of I don't want to say lush, but like greenish place with houses that look like this, it's mostly like to be Portugal. Like it's not a foolproof like hint, but it's pretty useful. Yeah, so definitely the houses are a good clue here. I decided the hill mainly based on a church. Um, yeah, yeah, it was northern Portugal. Okay, here we have another example of that Portuguese style, whitewashed with a red roof. Um, Another thing I want to point out here is this tree here. I don't know what it's called. If it's like Atlantic pine, although that might be an American thing. I really don't know, but it's super common in Portugal. Not as much in Spain. It does appear in Spain, but in Portugal it's basically anywhere, especially on the coast. Yeah, it was actually close to Lisbon. Okay, this was a tough round. Not gonna lie, there's not a lot here that can help. Okay, so now zoom out on these buildings. This is what I would consider an Italian house. Like, it's very much mostly featureless, two floors and a balcony, but that's basically describing most of the Mediterranean. But maybe go Italy here over France, where mostly these shutters. Shutters is another thing that's like very subtle, but can actually help you a lot, especially in these kinds of regions. Like in France, they tend to have this like diagonal stripe going over them, which is especially common in like central eastern France. Whereas here it's mostly like little stripes, little horizontal stripes, or like just plain piece of wood. I don't know, it's a little bit hard to describe. Um, but what made me mostly go with made me mostly go with Italy here over France are these first of all these electrical poles. France has this kind of typical electrical pole with like holes in the middle. That's a thing in more countries than one. I'll point it out later. Whereas these wood ones kind of made me think of Italy. And those mountains over there, I just couldn't think of anywhere in France that would look like this. Um, in the south, in like the coastal Alps mountains, it would look more dry. And more northerly, it wouldn't like have this bright rock shining through. So I made a gamble to go for Italy, and it actually worked out. Yeah, really taking my time here. I really wasn't sure. And yep, it was actually in Marche in eastern Italy. Okay, next round, you can probably, yeah, you can probably recognize some of these things I talked about. There's the whitewashed buildings with red roofs. Um, it looks kind of lush, so probably not southern Spain. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Okay, it was number 10. Okay, this was okay. So here it's a little bit blurry, but you can see this is a Spanish road sign with with black on white. Um, Portugal also uses the same type of road sign, but the font is slightly different. I'm sure we recognize the difference pretty soon when I see another one. It's a little bit more like comic sans. I don't know how to describe it. Um, And this here is the main giveaway. This is a Spanish road marker. You'll see this quite often. These like colorful markers on the side of a road, which always have the name of the road, which starts with the province, which is why Spain is so easy in comparison to most of the other Mediterranean countries. These don't exist in Portugal. So here we have CO. I didn't actually couldn't remember what CO meant, but it's actually the province of Cordoba, which makes perfect sense. Also, as you might have noticed, it looks very dry here. There are basically no trees, so that's another thing that should have pointed me to more southern Spain. Although most of central Spain is pretty dry as well. Yeah, I'm gonna spend a little bit of time making, yeah, looking for CO here. It is actually the province of Cordoba. Here I was explaining what the map includes. Somebody on stream. It's yeah, I think I can skip this bit a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Should actually go back a little bit. Um, yeah. This is Croatia. The reason why I can say this is so confidently is it's these stone walls. Like at this point, it's more like piles of stones, but it used to be walls at some point. On the side of the road. That's a Croatian thing. It's You can also see old cars here, which means it's like a little bit poorer. Since Croatia is quite a bit poorer than the other Mediterranean countries, so it's a little bit more a contextual clue. These stone walls are uniquely Croatian. The whole landscape is like very stony. Uh, Also, vegetation is fairly sparse. It has this kind of desolate vibe that you see in coastal Croatia, since it is very sparsely inhabited comparison to most other places. So yeah, this was a little bit of a tough one. It's very dry here. You have these kind of like fluffy trees. Over there, that's a I think that's a Lancia car, which is well, I was thinking of guessing Italy here, but actually, I'm gonna look over, and these are Spanish bollards with the orange in the front and the white dots in the back. This is the kind of bollard that's used in a lot of different countries, so I wouldn't rely on it too much. But if you're looking like to differentiate from, for example, Italy, it's a good hint. Italy uses different bollards with like a red, a red square in the middle. So yeah. This is a very overexposed gent for Spain here. The reason why I went Spain here is, first of all, these bollards. Second of all, it's again very dry, very treeless. There's a bunch of places this could be in Italy, but yeah. First of all, it's the bollards. Second of all, most of the Italian south, which is pretty much the only parts of Italy where this could be, are covered in Gen 2, which is like less less clear, darker. Yeah, I'm sure you would be able to tell the difference. Also, that church tower we could see over there had kind of like a Spanish style, but again, that's a little bit more in depth. Okay. This is the first urban and first and I think only urban location I saw. We have the Italian plates with blue stripes on both sides. I was actually gonna able to 5K this because it mentioned city of Noto, which is a city in Sicily, which I've visited relatively recently, and we are at like a marina very close by. It'll take a little bit of time to pinpoint this. Yeah. Also, which you might notice a little bit is that is like this light stone that's used to build these buildings. It's not really a uniquely Italian thing, but it kind of mostly occurs around like the central Mediterranean. Like the buildings in Greece and Croatia that tend to be like light stone, like white stone or whitewashed, whereas buildings in Spain and Portugal tend to be built from either darker stone or whitewashed as well. But it's again, it's a little bit more in depth. Okay, here we have a very rocky, stony landscape and whitewashed buildings with flat roofs. There's only one region in the Mediterranean where this is like the typical norm, and that's the Greek islands, the Dracanis, the Cyclades, basically the central and eastern groups of islands. Um, they're also completely deforested, hence the dry look. Yeah, so I actually got the Greek island here with Naxos, which is very nice. Unfortunately, we don't really get a great look at the architecture I was talking about, but yeah, it's whitewashed buildings with flat roofs and like blue, mostly blue, but also other colorful elements. Uh, there's like obviously there's modern buildings with flat roofs everywhere in the Mediterranean, but this is the only part where it's like basically everything you see is just flat roofed. And here I was talking about which places I visited. Let's just skip ahead. Okay, here again we have stones on the side of the wall, which is the giveaway for Croatia I mentioned. You can see the stony landscape, kind of sparse vegetation. Um, also, hopefully I zoom over that again. Yeah, what you see here, this car has no EU plate, and the reason is Croatia was admitted to the EU in 2013, and most of this coverage is actually from like 2011 to 2013. So before the EU plates were issued here. So if you see a lot of cars without EU plates, it's pretty likely in Croatia. If you're like already narrowed down the region. But it's not like foolproof, obviously. But it's a very good hint. This was really tough. I had to get help from chat here. This is like Ottomny, which narrows it down mostly to two options, which is Croatia and Greece. Both of those had major parts of the country taken in the autumn. It looks relatively temperate, which is also options for both. It doesn't have the stony look that you would expect in coastal Croatia. Also, it looks pretty poor. There's like sheep grazing. There's like this shed-looking thing. There's an old van over there. Um, it looks kind of unmaintained in general. Um, in the end, what made us, not really me, I had to get help from chat here, go with Greece over Croatia is this little shrine thing here. I don't know what's it really for, but you sometimes see it in Orthodox countries, especially Greece. We've also seen it in like Romania and Bulgaria. Um, yeah, so that's basically only hint we could gather here. Um, it took me a long while to decide. Um, yeah, I went north since it looks so temperate. I thought it would be like pretty close to the Balkans. Yeah, it was northern Spain, northern Greece. Sorry. Okay, now we have very bright turn four. Um, I was actually a little bit confused by this round. You have the double white line on the road, which is a unique Greek feature. Wherever you see a double white line on the road, it's very likely to be Greece. However, on some main roads, it also occurs in other countries, especially Spain. So don't rely on it 100%, but it's a very good hint, especially on minor roads. If you have double white line on like minor, smaller roads, it's pretty much a giveaway for Greece. Other things that made us go Greece here are those mountains. As I zoom in here, again you can see the like bright rock peeking through. It's like pretty deforested. That pretty much narrows it down to Greece and Croatia. And this is not Croatia, first of all, because of the camera. Croatia doesn't have Gen 4. Secondly, the plates. Thirdly, the road. Croatia doesn't use these kinds of road lines. So yeah, you do have like this bright rock in parts of Italy and Spain as well, but the mountains there don't tend to be as deforested and like as bright as this. It kind of comes down to experience, but yeah, you have a bollard as well. I don't really like to use bollards in the Mediterranean since a lot of the bollards in these countries look very alike, so it's easy to get confused. Except for the ones that look unique, like Italy or Slovenia. I was talking about something here as well. Okay, this is another bit of a little bit of a tough one. You have a very dry and deforested landscape with a coast to the. I can actually see the compass here, but I think it was the coast to the south. I was wondering Spain here. However, in the end, I went with Greece. First of all, if you see these like reddish moss or shrubbery or whatever it is, we've already seen something similar to that on that Greek island round in Naxos. So that's the first hint. Secondly, uh, it looks very stony, like a lot more stony than you would see in Spain. Thirdly, uh, the south of coast of Spain is a lot more mountainous and a lot more urbanized, so this would be very unusual to see. And thirdly, these buildings, they just kind of look Greek. You have the flat roofs. They're painted bright colors. Um, that's not really a thing in Spain. The modern houses in Spain tend to be multiple floors and or like have red roofs. It kind of varies depending on region. But yeah, I decided to go for Greece here. The Greek islands tend to be very deforested because well they're islands and ancient Greeks cut down all the trees to make ships. Which whereas a lot of like Italy, Spain, Portugal is very was very foresty. So let's move on. Um, okay, this was another a bit of a tough one. We can see a lot of olive trees around, which is a common theme around Mediterranean countries. It's also pretty hilly and dry. Okay, we can see those very bright deforested mountains in the background, which once again kind of narrows it down to Croatia versus Greece. Um, and well, there's not really any easy answer here. Like, it was very much a toss up or based on like pure feeling here. In my experience, Croatia, especially like close to Croatia, doesn't really have that many olive trees. Like, you can see some around, but It's not really in like olive groves like you see here. Also, the soil isn't very stony, and it's missing those stone walls we've seen before. Which is another hint that pushed me towards Greece here. So, yeah, in the end, I decided to go for Greece, especially specifically the Peloponnese island. I mean, well, I want to correct myself. It is technically an island since there's a canal between the mainland. Okay, this was another tough one. We have an old van with like a really unintelligible plate, a featureless shack, some olive trees, and a very dry landscape with like irrigation agriculture. This I would almost mistake this for like Chile or Peru if I knew I wasn't playing Europe. Uh, Again, this house isn't much help. It's like just an old agricultural shack. Um, what pushed me towards Spain here, since this is actually Spain, is this? It's just so dry. Like when I zoom in back here, these mountains they've no vegetation, no shrubbery, no trees, nothing. That's very uncommon in the Mediterranean, especially in like Greece, Italy. Like those places can be very dry, but always you always have some kind of vegetation on these hills. This kind of desert-like landscape can pretty much only occur in like mildly inland Spain, which does have like some semi-desert areas. So I pondered this for a while, but in the end, I just couldn't see any other option. Anywhere else would have a little bit more grass, a little more trees, a little more shrubbery. Yeah. So I debated this a lot, and it was actually Spain. Okay. This was on the other hand a pretty easy one. This is the Po Valley in Italy. The main feature of the Po Valley is that it's very flat, which is very unusual for Italy. Like it's a very mountainous country or hilly country at least. The Po Valley, if you don't know, it's that region in the north, and the Po River, obviously, between the Alps and the Apennines. Like it's where many major cities are, like Milan, Pavia, Piacenza, Bologna, those kind of places. So it's very flat, very agricultural. Um, Another thing that pointed to Italy here, let me turn back a little bit. Yeah, you see the road. Hopefully I'll turn it down a little bit. Sorry, it's a bit hard. Yeah, it's a bit hard to find the right spot. Yeah, you see those fake white lines on the sides with like not much in the middle. This is kind of unique to Italy in this region. Usually, other countries will have either no road lines or just a stripe running down the middle. Uh, just stripes on the sides. It's very much Italian. But pretty close as well. And in Emilia Romagna, on the outskirts of Bologna, I was kind of excited about that guess. I'm sure I will move on soon. Or I can just move it. Okay. Uh, yeah, we have. Okay. And this is the Halo, the Gen 2 Halo, which is like this brighter, blurry ring at the top. It's a pretty easy giveaway for Gen 2. As you can also see, it's kind of a little bit less clear, a little bit darker. We have like a stone shed here. This was a little bit unclear, but what made me go here to Italy, since this is Italy, is the main look of the landscape. It's basically has basically no forest, but it's also not that dry. So that's very typical for the landscape in southern Italy. It's also very hilly, and it has sheep farms. And another thing that's very common in southern Italy. Also we have a lot of wind turbines, which is another typical feature. Like in comparison with Greece, Greece has a lot of sharper peaks and forests, and in general has this little bit of a wilder side on the mainland, and the islands are, on the other hand, a lot rockier and drier. Spain is either a lot more mountainous and forested as well, or a lot flatter. Italy is like this. Southern Italy, in particular, is like this little bit unique kind of landscape where it's like mostly forestless, but also it's these like very rugged rolling hills. It's kind of gently mountainous. It was actually Sardinia, which is kind of a weird place. There's a lot of strange landscapes you don't really expect to see coming. Okay, this is a strange place. We have a mountain with some snow on it, so this means this is a very high peak, like at least in the 2000s, 3000s meters above the sea level. But we also see as a lot of rocks. So it's not. It's pretty dry. It's not that lush. A lot less lush than you would expect to see in the Alps. So this is the first. This is not actually the Alps. The Alps also tend to be a little less rocky and generally more covered vegetation. Um, yeah, so it was pretty much my entire motivation for ruling out Italy and France here. Um, the other thing is that these black and white arrows, I've seen those in Spain a lot. They occur in other countries though, so that's not really a great hint. This almost more or less came down to the feeling like it was just way too rocky and dry to be the Alps. So I expected this to be the Pyrenees, and it was just more probable this was the Spanish side of the Pyrenees than the French side. The reason why I didn't consider Greece there was because uh, Greek mountains don't really look like this. Like they tend to have when you're really high enough to see to see snow. The forest is a lot denser. Or on the other hand, it might not have trees at all. That's a little bit different topic. Okay, this was a giveaway. We had the Greek writing on the sign over there, or that graffiti rather. If we're confused about the Greek writing a little bit, it looks a lot like Cyrillic, since Cyrillic is actually based on the Greek alphabet. As another giveaway, we have Italian road signs, white on blue. Again, unique within the Mediterranean, except for Albania. Albania is very similar to Italy in a lot of ways. Um, it's also Gentoo, which is a lot of Italy is Gentoo. A lot more than like Spain. There's also a lot of Gentoo in Greece. Um, the buildings here, yeah, we have Italian there as well. I was just kind of looking for some specific information here so I could pin it down a little bit more. These buildings look a little bit more northern Italian, so I decided to go for these mountains. Yeah, this is actually the other side. Okay, this is an interesting round. This is actually Gen 2. Uh, since it's a little bit overexposed, we can see snow-covered peaks here, which is a feature of Greece. It's kind of something you wouldn't really expect in Greece, but again, since us mentioned that a lot of Greece was taken in the autumn, it was already starting to snow at like the highest peaks, so that's kind of things you might see sometimes. Also, it looks quite poor here. Greece really looks a lot more kind of ramshackle or a little bit more run down than like Spain and Italy. Um, but it's a little bit subjective. It's not really a great hint. Um, this was a kind of a bit of a tough round. What made me go for Greece here were these houses with the kind of like tent roofs, which had like more squarish structures. Looked a little bit like the buildings you would see in Bulgaria or Macedonia. So I decided to go for like northern Greece, and it was really more central, but um, it is pretty similar. Okay, here, this is Gentilus again. This is Spain. But when we go Spain here, first of all, these roof tiles, they're like a little bit. Again, this is a little bit hard to take in. I think it takes a lot of experience, but these are more like darker, more brownish than the roof tiles you would see in, for example, in most of Portugal and Greece, where it's more bright red. Uh, this is more typical Spanish. Also, it's mostly flat, agricultural, which is a feature of central Spain. Uh, Another thing, yeah, we have those uh, bright green, bright green shutters contrasted with red brick, which is a Spanish thing. But again, this is kind of a specific point as well as those that red awning. Again, those are a little bit specific architectural points that I can't really go into. Otherwise, it will be 3 hours. So yeah, uh, this is a tough one. This is either northern Spain or northern Portugal. The reason I say that is because it's Chintu again. As you can see, it's kind of dark and blurry. You have these tall pines, which I've pointed out before, which are mostly appear in coastal Portugal and parts of Spain. Um, yeah, this is a little bit smaller road. Gento is also a lot more common in Portugal than in Spain. So in the end, I decided to hedge it for Spain for Portugal here, and it was correct. We are actually at 30. Correct locations in a row. In a row. Sorry. It's getting a little bit late. Okay, this was a tough round. So what we have here is a bunch of industrial buildings, which don't really tell us much. It looks very lush. So that kind of rules out. Croatia here. I was kind of admiring this weird piece of technology. Like I don't know, it's like a cement mixer built on a tractor or whatever. Okay, taking a closer look at these mountains. Very much rule out Greece and again Croatia from this because as you can see, it's very forested. There's no stone breaking through. So yeah, we have a uh, like green covered pastures or like above the tree line peeking out here, but it's not that bright stony look you would see in Greece or Croatia. It's more like it's actually got the grass cover. These are all old cars, so they don't have EU plates. Mm, yeah. There's not a lot of specific information here. Unfortunately, I kind of had to guess it based on the overall look, this reminded me of kind of these old industrial parks you would see in Italy. And also, this little vehicle you sometimes see, especially in city centers, since it can get through those tiny alleys in the old towns. So that's another clue. Also, I've seen mountains like this in central Italy, with these green treeless tops. But it's also they also appear in Spain and France as well. So That's really a specific point. I kind of mostly had to guess of the overall vibe here. Yeah, it was actually the wrong part of the country again, but you know, that doesn't matter. The important part for streaks is the country. Okay, now what do we have here? We have a wide open agricultural landscape, which is a feature of like inland Spain and Portugal. If it was Italy, it would be a lot more hilly. It would probably be Centu, which means and it would be a little bit lusher since a lot of Centu, southern Italy, was taken in the winter. We have these sparse olive trees, which are also a lot more common in like Spain, Portugal, and Greece than in Italy. And we have these whitewashed buildings with bright red roofs, which I've mentioned as mostly being a Portuguese thing. Another point that maybe go for Portugal over Spain is that inland Spain has to be drier. Then that is like a little bit too lush. Okay, and this is the round that actually doomed me on this round. We can't see any specific information here. We have it's a little bit dry. There's just some general trees. We have some mountains in the background, but not really identifying information. We actually have some stone peeking out there. Um, it's basically very generic. I was balancing between Greece and Italy here. I kind of ruled out Spain because it doesn't really look like any kind of landscape I would imagine in Spain, as well as Portugal. Also, the camera is Gen 2 and it's very sunny. Also, I couldn't think of a place in Spain or Portugal that would look like this. Most Gen 2 in Portugal and Spain is overcast. Yeah, we also have this weird stony gate. There's just nothing. It's very rocky here. There's just nothing really particular here. Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, why I ruled out Croatia here is I couldn't see any of the stone walls, but mainly it's the camera. Croatia has no Gen 2 outside of city centers. Um, yeah. The vegetation was just not sparse enough. The mountains didn't look right. Yeah, so I mostly narrowed it down to some parts of Italy or Greece, and I couldn't decide, and the chat was hopeless as well. So in the end, I decided to go for Greece. I didn't really have a good reasoning for it. Like I thought this might be like some weird part of inland Greece that might look like this, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. This is actually Sardinia. And I talked about Sardinia as being very weird. Is Since it's an island, it's a lot of distinct features compared to mainland Italy, and tends to catch me off guard a lot. Like I really very seldom do I expect to see Sardinia, so it's kind of an island of surprises. So unfortunately, I got thrown off by Sardinia here. I can't really tell you what I should have seen here that would point me to Sardinia or like Italy in general. I was really stumped. The only reason I would have gotten Italy here is if I managed to like hedge it correctly. And unfortunately not. Yeah. So that's the end of the streak. I got to 32, which is good for a second on this map. I think so. I only got through some locations with help from chat, from like Street View and other great people in the chat. So, yeah. Uh, I'm sorry if this was a little bit like sorry, just checking something. I'm sorry it was a little bit too rambly or like disconnected. I was mostly like just sharing some random thoughts on what I saw in the rounds that came up. I might do something more coherent sometime, but I just thought this was a good opportunity to kind of share some tips on this part of the world. So yeah, hopefully you're not too confused and got a little bit out of it. So yeah, in anyway, thank you for watching and see you next time.